I'm actually not too surprised about Yuma getting stabbed like that. I didn't really see it coming, but I always thought it was a possibility that she would die here. So I can't really say I was expecting Natsuki to get stabbed too. Yo, you guys, this is Blacklist of the Abyss, and you're watching my review for Strike the Blood, episode 15. And this is a pretty short arc. Well, not pretty short. All the other arcs before this were 4 episodes, but this one was only 3. So that caught me off guard. But still, I'd still have to call it one of my favorite arcs of the series, just because while the action was almost non-existent, I mean this episode was the only one that actually had like fights in it, and even then they weren't real fights. Um, Even so, the story was the strongest here because of the relationship between Kojou and Yuma. So this is still probably one of my favorite arcs, especially since it's going to lead into the next arc, Observer's Banquet. But this one starts off with a little flashback. Yuma as a kid being just tended to by all these older women maids, and one of them mentions that her mom is trapped in a prison barrier in a demon district. She doesn't say the demon district, she says a demon district, which makes me think that there's more than one demon district, and if that's the case, what's stopping these other demon districts from being in the story? Okay, so that's yet another way that the story can build and progress, and the world can expand. Um, if Strike the Blood is good with anything, it's good with its potential. Every episode, something else comes up, which lets you know that something big can happen in the future. But as far as the actual episode, well, that is part of the actual episode, but you know what I mean. When the actual episode starts after the opening and everything, the Myers sisters end up capturing Himeragi and Kojou, but they get saved by Mafolia and Sayaka, right? And they they saw that Kojou was a girl. They're like, wait, who is this? Who are you? It was funny. Sayaka's just talking. She's like, yeah. So I thought that was funny. And then Mafolia, after they get this situation explained to them, because for some reason the Myers sisters sat there and waited for the situation to be explained, then again, I guess they have no reason not to, since all they're trying to do is buy time for Yuma to finish anyway. But the situation gets explained to Mafolia and Sayaka, and Mafolia says that with Kojou the way he is, she can't produce an heir with him, which caught me off guard, because no one else in the series would say something like that. She's so honest about her feelings. And Kojou didn't freak out either. He just sat there and smiled. Yeah, so that was good. He didn't like start to blush and say, oh, what? Baka! Like, he didn't do anything cliche like that, so that was cool. I liked that scene. And at this point, that's when the prison starts to come up, it appears. And we get a little cameo from Yaze saying, oh, they got us. Which I don't really see a point. I don't why was he even in this episode? That's literally the only appearance he made the entire time. I don't really get why they had that in there. I guess just so that we know that he wasn't forgotten. I guess I don't know, but he was there for a little bit, and then Bakura, he shows up too, Kensei, and apparently Mafolia got him a temporary release so that he could help them. He's the one that warped her and Sayaka to the Keystone Gate. And he ends up warping Kojou and Himeragi too, because Yuma ends up destroying the grimoire and then warping inside the prison. So, like I said, Kojou and Himeragi, they go after her, and Sayaka and Mafolia, they stay to deal with the Witches of Ashdown. And this, dude, Octavia, man, she started talking about how She was going to drive their branches up their exquisite holes, tear them apart, mix their organs together, and turn them into meat. Dude, this trick is crazy. I could not believe she actually said that. Luckily, she didn't actually do any of that because we don't want any of that to happen to Mafolia and Sayaka. Mafolia ends up figuring out exactly how their familiar works. She finds out. She talks about how they got the name Witches of Ashdown, how like an entire forest disappeared, and she finds out how the familiar works and how to counter it. So she uses the false holy sword, and Sayaka uses her rain of arrows, and they destroy the familiar. Then that's that. The Witches of Ashdown are defeated. They get arrested and they get taken away. As far as the stuff with Yuma and Kojou and Himeragi, they do catch up to her, and Yuma starts explaining how she was born specifically to break Aya out. That was programmed into her, and it's literally her only purpose in life, pretty much. The only decision that she's made that was legitimately hers was meeting Kojou and getting to know him, getting closer to him. Right? So that kind of let you know that that one connection that she has with him was going to be like her saving grace. That's what was going to get her to that's what was going to save her pretty much, because that's the only thing she has. Right? And that's what Kojou ends up trying to use later on. But one of the other things she was talking about before that was that the original plan to break Aya out was to sacrifice 100,000 people on Itogami Island. And that's what was going to give them what they needed in order to break the barrier. But since Kojou was there and he became the fourth progenitor, they didn't need to do that. So just by existing, he saved the lives of 100,000 people. That's what Yuma tells him. And then after that, LeBlue, that's the name of the knight thing, the suit of armor. She does this space-time distortion thing to bring out Regulus' arm. LeBlue tries to control it. It can't really do it, but it at least shoots it towards the prison barrier, and the barrier breaks. She goes and finds Natsuki there, which means I was wrong about her not coming back until the next arc or the arc afterwards, but oh well. Can't be right all the time. It turns out that Natsuki is the jailer, the door, and the key to the barrier. But just because the barrier is broken doesn't mean all the prisoners were freed. That's what Yuma says, at least. That's what we see, at least. The barrier gets broken. She can go inside the prison, but none of the prisoners were released. Also, apparently, Natsuki's been there for 10 years straight, ever since the Witches of Ashdown were last in the city. And the Natsuki that we know that taught at the school was just an illusion, pretty much, which makes sense, I guess, because in the last 3 arcs, Natsuki hasn't really done that much. I mean, she's fought a little bit, but for the most part, she just leaves the fighting to someone else. Like against Christoph Gardos, she just said, Himeragi, you handle that. I'll go save the other. I'll go take the others, get them to safety. She always ends up leaving the big fights to someone else, even though she's the Witch of the Void and she's incredibly powerful. She always leaves everything to like children who are weaker than her. So I guess it makes sense for Natsuki to have been an illusion all that time, because it makes sense to say that the illusion was weaker than the original. It would be like Naruto creating shadow clones. The shadow clones are weaker than the original because the power is split between them. So it's something like that. And also, one last thing that Yuma mentions is that if Natsuki gets killed, the barrier will be broken. Oh, the barrier's already broken. If Natsuki gets killed, then all the prisoners will be released, pretty much. So that's what she tries to do. She tries to kill Natsuki. And this is when Kojou comes in and uses their connection, uses their relationship, and try to get her to stop what she's doing. And I actually liked the scene. I really did. It wasn't your typical friendship speech with someone trying to talk no jutsu another person. It was an actual it wasn't just like your cliche friendship stuff. Like, it was actually real. Like, I don't know how to say it. I don't know. I just like that scene. I thought it was better than something you typically see in something like Magi. or Kuroko, or the majority of people who get taught ninjutsu in Naruto. Caesar Clown in freaking One Piece. Oh, Jesus freaking Christ, that guy cannot. I don't know why he even tried to talk to Jutsu Luffy. It made no freaking sense. But yeah, it was better than what you usually see in those series. So I really did like it. It wasn't quite. It wasn't. Well, it wasn't even close to Hunter x Hunter level with Killua and Icalgo, but still, it was still pretty cool, and I did like that scene. Um, it doesn't at first she decides to continue on with the plan, but later on after she gets defeated she realizes that she doesn't now that she's failed and how can I put it? Well, let's put it this way. She had already done so much work to achieve the goal. It'd be like, why stop now? I might as well do it and finish it. But after she failed and she was forced to stop anyway, why go through the trouble of doing all of that over again? I'll just listen to Kojou this time and stop. All right. So that's how that goes. But before she actually loses, she tries to kill Natsuki with the blue. That doesn't work because Himeragi blocks it. And she starts to focus on Yuma herself, but LeBlue ends up taking out the ceiling on top of Natsuki and trying to crush her that way. Kojou saves her this time though, diving, getting her out the way, and that's when Yuma's body starts to reach its limits. Blood starts falling down her face. By her, I mean like Kojou, but Kojou in Yuma's body, her actual body. Blood starts to roll down her face, and Himeragi realizes that she needs to hurry things up. So she tries a couple times, and she fails a couple times as well. But she tries to stab Kojou's body, and she tries to stab Yuma in Kojou's body with the lance spear thing, something with an S, some German name with an S. But she tries to stab her with that, and eventually she does it. Kojou helps out a little bit. She kicks it through LeBlue, and yeah, that's that. Kojou gets back into his body. Then we see a short scene with LaFolia and Sayaka. LaFolia is going to end up leaving in 15 minutes to go back to Aldegear, and she's leaving as soon as possible so that Sayaka can go enjoy the festival with Kojou. And that's probably not going to happen. Probably not going to happen. With the backlash from what happened at the end of the episode, which is Yuma, like I said before, deciding to go with what Kojou said. Oh yeah, Natsuki's awake too, by the way. Natsuki wakes up, and Yuma, she decides she's going to listen to what Kojou said and stop trying to break her mom out. But she possesses LeBlue, or maybe she was possessing it the entire time, who knows. But at least, she possessed LeBlue, and she stabbed Yuma. Okay, and the attack goes through Yuma and hits Natsuki too. Okay, so both of them are in pretty bad shape, and Natsuki collapses. Whether she'll die or not, who knows? I'd rather her not die because she hasn't done enough in the series so far to make me care that much about whether or not she dies. Not to say I don't like her, because I do like her. She's one of my favorite characters in the series. It's just if she's going to die, I'd want it to be after she does more. That way, it means more. So all she's done is like catch a pervert on a train. That's an exaggeration, but yeah, you know what I mean. I want her to be able to stick around longer in order to do more. Same with Yuma. I don't want her to die, but I could understand that if she did die, this would provide a reason for Kojou to want to defeat Aya Tokuyogi, especially if she becomes a main villain in the series, her in the library, which is very possible, because we don't have a main villain yet. So, I mean, I guess I'm not really sure if either of them will survive, to be honest. I mean, it's possible. I'm sure Kojou sucked Astarte's blood to save her, I think, or something like that. So he might be able to do the same thing with the two of them. The preview doesn't tell us that much either. I mean, we see scenes of them just hanging out, of like, I mean, Kojou's mom shows up, and it's like we just see scenes that kind of show some serious stuff, but also show some not serious stuff. So I don't even know what to think about what's going to happen next. I'll assume that both of them survive. That's what I'm going to say. Because if the preview shows some stuff that isn't too serious, which it did, then I can't really say that they're too sad about what ended up happening. So I'll assume that both of them are alive for now. Well, I mean, they are alive right now, but I'll assume that they aren't going to die by the time next episode comes around. But yeah, that's it. Overall, I'll give this episode an 8 out of 10. I like the story of this arc, but there really wasn't any action at all. I mean, technically there was with the cutting of tentacles, which not really action. And then even with Yuma and Kojou and Himeragi, there wasn't really much action. It was block LeBlue, dodge LeBlue, and stab Yuma. Like, that's literally all there was. So I mean, there wasn't much action. So I'll just give it an 8 out of 10, which is entirely because of the story and the character development and stuff. So yeah, and that's that. Next week we have the Observer's Banquet. Rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.